Yeah, I think that's. I didn't get many views when starting out either. I think still don't get as many as I wish, but it's a journey, and I think that's the reality of podcasting because I believe that's one of the reasons why, as we discussed before, is why many people quit because they expect that in the beginning you get many views, but that's not really the reality unless you've got already a big following. So I think that's something what we discussed before, like when it comes to your vision, because if you've got a vision, such as to help people, to positively influence people, or whatever it is, no matter the views, you still continue because you enjoy it, you keep working on it. And I always try to keep in mind kind of the bigger picture, because although I may not have the following or the views now, I believe that if I'm consistent, if I keep improving, that over time it will pay off.
So, hi guys, this is Eamon, and we are back with another episode of Mindful Marketing. And today we have Thomas with us, who's LinkedIn's podcast guy, and he's personally one of my most favorite. And he also helps others, launch their podcast as well. So, we have a very fascinating topic to talk about. That is, how do you actually start marketing your podcast from scratch? So, I want to go all over to you, Thomas. So, what's the first thing that anyone should consider when they decide to market their podcast channel?
So firstly, thank you, Ayman. I really appreciate this, and I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for your kind words. I think when it comes to marketing your podcast, I would say that was one of the things that I struggled with in the beginning is to get clear on, I would say, on your niche.
Yeah.
Because you need to know who's your audience, obviously, where is your audience, who you're talking to, and everything like that. Because talking of my experience before, my podcast was that I was basically talking to people from creative industries, which is a very broad topic. And understandably, it was a bit difficult to, I don't know, tailor the content, the message, and everything. But then when I had this realization or this switch or this change that I want to focus on LinkedIn, I feel like that it made honestly everything much easier because now I know who's my audience, I know who are my guests, and it makes everything like easier for me to focus on. And at the same time, I know what's my primary platform, which is obviously LinkedIn. So then I kind of try to market or tailor everything so it fits LinkedIn. But at the same time, of course, I publish and share content on other platforms as well, because once you have it, it will be a shame not to benefit from it by sharing on other places as well. So I would say the first thing would be get clear. I don't know if the niche is the right word to say, but basically, what's your vision and what's the direction of your podcast? Because then it makes everything easier, I would say.
So you're talking about niche and vision. So how do people choose their vision specifically? Because there are a lot of topics online, but how do you know which is the perfect niche or vision for you?
I think that's actually a good question, but a tough one to answer. I think people just should be open to exploring because it's normal and it's fine that when you start you don't know. I didn't know, and I'm pretty sure there are so many people who don't know. And let's be honest, when it comes to podcasts, there are so many, so it's quite hard to stand out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would say don't see it as obstacle. I think the best way how to approach it is do what you enjoy, because if it's something that you enjoy, it just makes it easier to continue. And when you feel down or when you don't see the numbers, you still do it because you like it.
Yeah.
Make sure that it's something that you can stick with consistently. Keep showing up even though you're not motivated or you don't feel like it, and keep exploring because there are so many ways. Sometimes you try something, it doesn't work, but it's okay. At least you know that it doesn't work. But it also might give you idea what else or what something else is there that you can explore. And sometimes, honestly, because I listen to many podcasts as well, you feel like that because there are so many podcasts, there must be everything. But I often search and I find such types of topics and areas that the podcast discuss that I would never think that it's possible or that it has audience. So think about what you enjoy, try to do some research so that it's something that stands out. And of course, make sure that there is audience for it, because you need people to listen to it.
So like there are a lot of podcasts, like just like you said, that there's so many people who are doing podcasting. So one way to differentiate is through branding. But a lot of people get stuck in that. Even I got stuck in that in the middle. So how do you actually brand your podcast? What elements should we consider?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good question. Just as we are recording, I posted actually this week the podcast episode with MJ, which I think was kind of a perfect masterclass on branding, because he's amazing. He's a master. So with branding, I think he's, just speaking of MJ, just as I mentioned him, I think he's also a great example of someone, because he mentioned that he did so many variations of his branding, such as what type of brand, what type of content, because we are talking about LinkedIn, how do you structure and design your carousels and everything like that. So I think it's similar to what we discussed before, that it's okay that you don't master it in the beginning. And I would say don't let it stop you, because sometimes we are, or from my experience, I feel like perfectionist. So before I try to get something out there, I'm overthinking. I'm like, oh, is this going to be the best way, or I can tweak this or that. But I think it's just at that moment when it's something that you like, that you enjoy, and you just feel like that at that moment there isn't really anything else to improve, I would say just publish it. And over time you improve, because it's completely fine.
That's
You
right.
know, you do something and you improve over time. And again, just do something that you like, because if you don't like it, there's really no point in doing that. And try to do some research, see what's there in the market, so that it's something that makes you stand out. Because I think what's important is to come up with something so that then the audience automatically associates, oh my god, what's the word, makes the connection between
Yeah, yeah.
you and that brand, such as the colors. Because for example, just as we discussed, although now I'm using this color, but I brand myself with green, or you with pink, so that then when people see you or see that color, they have automatic association.
Yeah.
So I think something that you like, and something that maybe is not being used as much yet.
So do you think the whole process of branding should be done before launching your podcast, or can it be done while the podcast is going on?
I think it's definitely helpful to start before. You don't need to have it perfect, like 100% figure out everything, but at least have basics, have like a structure, some kind of vision. Because when people see that, and for example see the first episode and you nail the branding, it's beautiful, figure out and everything, I think it helps you that first impression. So don't underestimate it. If it's possible, definitely work on it and try to make it as good as possible. But at the same time, if you struggle with that, but you want to record, you've got episodes or something like that, don't overthink it. You can just publish it, and if the episode is perfect, great guest, audio, questions, and everything, I think that's fine, because you can figure it out later on. But if possible, try to get it in advance, at least something. Because I would again just mention, when I look for some podcasts, or even talking of LinkedIn, and you see someone even with less followers, and you see that they have like a beautiful brand, like a polished profile and everything, it just makes a difference, it doesn't it?
Yeah. That's right. So, if someone is launching their first episode of their podcast, so what's their strategy? How should they get the first 100 listeners, for example, onto their channel?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I feel like, to be honest, in the beginning, if you don't have a large audience or the following, I think it might be quite challenging to get first many listeners. I think that's one of the reasons
Yeah.
why many podcasts fail in the beginning. But I think it's worth building your brand in advance, so that then when you start a podcast, there are already people who it's more likely that they are going to listen, or it also might help you to build the hype in advance. But if you don't have any audience, I think it's honestly quite challenging. I would say along the podcast, start your personal brand, which I would assume that it's automatic, but in case not, start a podcast at the same time, start like regularly posting for example, on LinkedIn, because we are discussing LinkedIn. And outside of LinkedIn, I would say start other platforms as well. Because once you have a content, I think that would be a shame not to benefit from other platforms.
Yeah.
Because even though you may not get views or followers or subscribers, you never know. For example, you publish on YouTube, it's there. It maybe doesn't get attraction in the first days, hours, I don't know. But you never know if someone might discover it like a few weeks or months later on. And at the same time, as we are talking on about LinkedIn, and I would assume that you repurpose the content because when you've got the episode, you create reels and it gives you content, I don't know, for a week or for even month. I think it's worth trying to put it on, let's say, Instagram, maybe even TikTok or YouTube Shorts. So my advice would be get on your primary platform, build your brand along the way, and also explore other platforms. Later on, if it doesn't work out, you don't have time or you don't like it, you can stop. But at the same time, you may also discover that it's helpful.
That's right. So there are a lot of ways, to brand your podcast as well. Like we have SEO strategies, and we have social media, we have community building. So which one do you think is the best for, starting a new channel?
I like what you mentioned, community building. I
Community.
think that it's the same or similar to building your personal brand on LinkedIn. And I think it's pretty much the same or similar to podcasting. Let's be honest that the community is everything. You need to build those relationships with your audience, need to show up with them and basically show that you care, because I think it just makes all the difference. If I imagine that I posted episode or I don't know, reels or some kind of content on LinkedIn and didn't engage or didn't listen to people, if I was in their shoes, I wouldn't really like it either. But this, I think, helps to build like the connection. And you never know, because you've got a community. It helps to grow over time. Those people may spread it with other people. And it's also helpful when it comes to feedback, because let's be honest, feedback not always might be easy to hear or to listen to, but that's how we improve after all. And you never know. They may share something with you and it might be idea for improvement, because I think it's always good to hear like objective opinion from outside. So I think community building, whether it's building your personal brand on LinkedIn, is definitely something start early on.
That's right. So a lot of people who are starting their podcast, like for example me, we don't get a lot of views in the start. So a lot of people actually back out from podcasting. They do a few episodes and then they back out because of lack of views. So what should the main motivation be for anyone who's actually starting their podcast?
Yeah, I think that's, I didn't get many views when starting out either. I think still don't get as many as I wish, but it's a journey. And I think that's the reality of podcasting, because I believe that's one of the reasons why, as we discussed before, is why many people quit, because they expect that in the beginning you get many views, but that's not really the reality unless you've got already a big following. So I think that's something what we discussed before, like when it comes to your vision, because if you've got a vision, such as to help people, to positively influence people, or whatever it is, no matter the views, you still continue because you enjoy it, you keep working on it. And I always try to keep in mind kind of the bigger picture, because although I may not have the following or the views now, I believe that if I'm consistent, if I keep improving, that over time it will pay off. Because when I was starting out, or even before, I always tried to do it because I enjoyed it. And before I got like, I'm pretty sure that many people can relate that the only people who listen to your podcast are like your family,
Yeah.
friends, and your mom or dad. And then over time, because I was getting clear on my niche, on my vision, I was, and because I was growing and improving, I was able to speak, let's say, with bigger creators on LinkedIn. And then obviously it kind of helps to accumulate and you get more and more views and traction. But it's always been like the long-term thinking, because if I wanted to go for the views or I don't know, engagement in the beginning, I would quit. Because in the beginning you just don't get it. So I think it's important sticking for the long term. Always make sure that you enjoy it, because if you enjoy it, I'm pretty sure you know it from your experience that it just makes it everything much easier. And have some kind of vision. It doesn't need to be something groundbreaking, such as, I don't know, change the world, but maybe to spread the word or knowledge about the specific topic that you are talking about.
That's right. So you talked a lot about repurposing content. So can you tell us more in detail that how can people actually repurpose their podcast content? What
Mhm.
are the strategies?
I think I think that's one of the biggest advantages of podcasting.
Yeah.
That, and I'm not lying. That's true. I remember I posted about it recently, and then I kind of proved it, because I don't want to reveal anything yet. But you do 1 hour episode, and if it's episode with good knowledge, like a good sections and the stuff that you discussed, I'm pretty sure that you can have a content like for the whole month. Because out of that 1 hour, you can cut so many 1 minute reels that then you can share, whether it's on LinkedIn or other social media channels. So obviously, now it changed a bit with LinkedIn and the feed and the navigation bar when the video disappeared. But I still believe that the video is big on LinkedIn and will continue growing. So from the one podcast episode, you can have many reels. Besides that, as always, you can have written posts, because you can write written posts from everything. And on top of it, coming back to example of me, I share regularly carousel from my episodes, which summarizes lessons from the episode. But you can do something different, but still you can do it into the carousel. So then you've got the videos, like a reels. You've got text, regular text posts, carousels. And even if you take some behind the scenes photos,
Yeah.
such as from the recording, the studio or something like that, you have then posts with images. So then out of one episode, you can literally have content for the whole month. And if you are smart about it, oh my God, there are always ways how to do it. Sometimes I feel like that I have so many content ideas that I don't know where to post it. So I think that's one of the biggest advantages. And I would say start benefiting from that as early as possible.
That's cool. So what other social media platforms do you use or you think that others should also use if they have a podcast channel?
Mhm. I think definitely, which is probably self-explanatory, streaming platforms such as YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and there are many more, which these days it's quite easy. You just get your RSS and you share it into the other platforms. As I mentioned, YouTube, I think it's kind of social media platform, and it's not really
Yeah.
streaming service, but still, for example, me, I still listen podcast there because sometimes I want to watch the video or the reels or something like that. So I think the YouTube, I would go for it as well. I wouldn't underestimate the video when it comes to the podcast. So if you can, do the video as well, because it helps you with reels, coming back to repurposing as we discussed before. And it also, you can share it on YouTube. Actually, you can share the video on Spotify as well. But on YouTube, it might help with, I don't know, SEO, discoverability, and everything. Which, and there is an option to do the video. And then the platform, which is going to be obvious, but LinkedIn, because we like LinkedIn,
Yeah.
we are biased, but I think LinkedIn is a great platform. And outside of that, I would really say it depends where's your audience or where are your clients or something like that. If it's on Instagram, post images, post shorts on Instagram. If it's TikTok, post there. Coming back to what we discussed again in the beginning, you can try more platforms to see which one works the most. It's understandable that it can get quite overwhelming and you cannot do 100% on every platform. So maybe try all of those, see where's your audience, where are your clients, and then just focus on those that perform the most or that make the most of sense for you.
So a lot of new creators, they face burnout. Like we're talking about posting on different social media platforms. I personally get burnout just by posting on LinkedIn. Like every other week, I think that I'm done and I won't be doing it again. So how can we actually avoid that? I did not get a proper solution for this yet.
I think that's a good question, and I'm trying to be aware of it so that I don't face it either. I always try to say that make sure that you have fun
Okay.
because it's not honestly it's not easy to every day show up on LinkedIn, engage, and spend quite a while there. And it's not just LinkedIn. For example, even if you do it on other platforms and you've got life outside of and work and everything. But I think if you find a way how to make it fun for yourself, it just makes it easier. Which, for example, by showing up and engaging with people that you like, you don't always need to be serious. Even like sharing some jokes or comments or having fun with people in comments, you can send like some funny DMs or just have a chat. And I think if you find your tribe, your community, as discussed before, it just feels like that you are showing up and chatting with friends. So that will be my advice, to surround yourself with the right people and have fun. Yeah, don't take it too seriously, although it's LinkedIn. Probably still some people think that it's a serious platform, but I believe that it's
Yeah.
really changing, or it's changed, so it's not like that anymore. And then probably obvious one, but make sure that you can do it consistently and don't compare yourself to others, which I'm sometimes guilty of that as well, but I try to remind myself not to compare to others.
That's right. So, how does AI play a role in your whole podcast journey, whether it comes to captions or maybe video editing? What tools do you
Mhm.
specifically use?
I'm very simple. I use pretty much one tool only, and I think it's amazing. I'm not connected to them so that I don't get any commissions, but it's Riverside. We just funny enough discussed it before recording of this. When I was starting out, I used to use Zoom
Yeah.
because it's free, and then I was editing with this software. I don't know if anyone still uses that, but it's called Audacity, and it's again because it was free. But then when I kind of wanted to improve or elevate my game and my workflow and everything, I was looking for some podcasting tools, and honestly, I think the Riverside is just amazing because I think now it's more than a year that I've been using that, and very often I open it and I see new features that I haven't seen there before. So that's one thing that I think that they keep innovating and always improving. The second thing is that I think they have great customer support, because so many times I was, I don't know, facing some issues, whether it was my fault or their fault, probably usually mine, but they were always really nice. And as you asked about AI, they have a lot of great features, such as, I don't know, automatic captions, helping you to cut filler words,
Yeah.
um, and much more. Honestly, I think that I should explore it more. So there is a lot. I think that I would honestly say that it's like the probably number one tool. There are, of course, other great tools, but I cannot see in what way it will be better. But one important thing I would mention is that although it's a really amazing tool with many AI features and it's always improving, I feel like that sometimes people think that you record episode, you do one click, and it edits the whole episode for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, you've got like a feature that, as I said, it helps with the gaps or filler words. But then, as a podcaster yourself, I'm pretty sure that you know that if you click it, it removes even parts that you want to keep in, because then it sounds very robotic. So I still use some of those features, but at the same time, I go through the whole episode. That way, I'm not saying it lazy. Maybe someone doesn't have time or you don't mind, but I think it would still sound not authentic, because, for example, sometimes I want to keep the laugh inside, or like a break to help with the mood, or just for some specific reason to keep it in. But I use it when it comes to the reels, because I think that the reels should be like a punchy, quick, fit it into 1 minute, capture attention. That's when I clear everything. But when it comes to the episode, I don't use it. But yes, Riverside is my favorite one. I know there are many more, like to help you with reels, timestamps, captions, everything. But for me, this is enough for now.
Okay, tell us about fan posts because I'm very interested in knowing about how that helps also for LinkedIn creation, your own tool.
Oh, fan post. Oh, yes, that is. I'm so happy that you asked about it. It's actually something that I've been building with Yonut, and it's a tool. It's not perfect yet, but we are working on it. We've got some big exciting plans, and it's basically a tool to help you with LinkedIn content creation. Of course, out there are so many LLMs and tools that you can use, even some from our competition. But we really try to make it simple, enjoyable, and efficient. So, like in a few simple steps, it helps you to generate a LinkedIn post, such as you title your message, who you're talking to, then you click.
Yeah.
Next step, it helps you to generate ideas, and in the next step, it gives you the post. And you've got so many options how to adjust the post. You can generate a new one, you can add emojis and everything. And on top of it, we've got some premium features, which are premium, but you can use it even in a free account. And since it's a tool that's focused on LinkedIn, those features are focused on LinkedIn as well. So it helps you, for example, with image generation, content for the carousel, to create hooks, and much more. We've
Okay.
got a lot in our road plan. But really, the idea behind it is to create the best, the fastest, and the most efficient tool for LinkedIn content creation. And many people would probably ask, in what way is it different than ChatGPT or something like this? But Yonut, the mastermind behind this, he built it so that it's basically integration of various tools such as ChatGPT, Perplexity, Grok, and I don't know what else. It will be a question for him. But yeah, we just try to come up with something helpful. It's for free. We are looking for any feedback, for any ideas, and if anyone wants to try, please give it a try, share your feedback, and join us on this amazing journey.
I'm definitely gonna try it as well. And it was great having you, Thomas, on our show. I learned a lot personally. I'm sure a lot of other people who are going to start their podcast are going to learn a lot. Do you want to give out any message at the end?
My message would be follow Ayman, because I know what it's like to need or to want to have some kind of support from the audience. And I think Ayman is doing a great job. I really appreciate that she invited me on. And please show her support. I think she's doing really well. I will try to support as well, and she really deserves it. So my final message would be support Ayman.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're personally my favorite host as well. I've learned a lot from
Thank
you.
you.
So thank you a lot.
Much appreciated. And I wish you all the best, and we'll keep following and supporting.
Thank you.